Our next speaker is Nia Ali, youth section of the Decarc Gard State, New Jersey. Students of color, co-founder of Plainsville Keep Youth and Streets Safe, KYSS organization, calling for an action to end street violence in Plainsville, and senior at Rowan University, majoring in musical theater.
Just made that very hard to follow all you guys. But it's actually good that I'm going after you because I'm touching on some of the things I want to open up with. So I'm going to start by talking about just my experience in having just kind of woken up to everything that has been going on. I always, like, since young, I felt like I've been awake to more things than most people have, but just going through college, my time spent in college and seeing everything that's been going on politically and in school, out of school, it just has opened my eyes to a lot. So I am here to learn. Just as he said, I just learned so much from just you guys speaking. But I want to talk about the youth component and why it's so important. I feel like now that learning all that I have learned and continue to learn, that so much has been kept from me. And so I'm just being hit with like so much information. So that right there, I think, is why it's so important to just always remember the youth, as all of you have mentioned, that we are the teachers for the next generation coming up. I can't separate myself from the youth that are coming up because I'm a part of that, or I went through the same struggles that they went through. So seeing that makes me want to speak out and help them understand. And I think this organizations like Decarcerated should be taken as opportunities for us to educate and have those conversations with our youth, because they're the ones that are coming up and they're going to experience the same exact thing that we experienced if we don't pass that knowledge on to them. And I don't want that to happen. It can't happen. So that being said, is the motivation should be the motivation for us to continue to have conversations like this, that we're able to be real about the issues that are going on. Yesterday, I went to a panel at my school that was set up much like this, and they had people coming in to talk to us about bridging the gap between police officers and students, or police officers in the community. But they weren't talking about real issues. You know, they professionalized and they made it all pretty and nice and beautiful. But you know, this is some ugly stuff. You know, so it's good for us to have conversations like this, and it's good because it's a start to helping us see that we can become unified, and that's the most important thing, is becoming unified and passing the importance of unification onto our children. Not just by telling them, but by showing them that they can come out to stuff like this, that stuff like this is available for them, making it, you know, cool to be knowledgeable, cool to be aware of what's going on. A lot of people, especially our youth, are asleep right now. A lot of my friends and colleagues and peers, they kind of look at me like, what's going on with her? Like, what is she doing? Why is she doing this? And it doesn't really make sense to them because they're sleeping, you know? So I think we need to make it a point to make it at the forefront to wake youth up to these issues, period, because just this issue of mass incarceration, or hyper-incarceration I'm using now, I'm not going to say mass anymore, but hyper-incarceration, because it targets specific people of color, poor people, immigrants, waking them up to issues like this that tie into everything, like she was saying before about how everything is connected, making them see that it's not just hyper-incarceration, it's not just my peer being shot in the street, it's not just, you know, not having jobs, not being cut off from welfare and stuff, it's all connected, it's not separate issues. And tying it into something as big as this issue, as important as this issue, and informing them on political prisoners, and just having these settings that we can get the correct information and education to this youth coming up. Like I was saying before, I felt like, I went through 12 years of K through 12, and I can't even think of anything that was of importance.
Yeah, right.
You know, they didn't teach me anything that would benefit me in
They taught you how to be a slave.
right, pretty much. So that's why this is so important. I'm just waking up to that now, even though I've been, more awake than most. But I'm becoming all types of aware now, and it's a scary thing to think about, that you wasted so much time in school and didn't learn anything that was relevant to you or of importance, or anything that can help you make changes for you and the people that you need to make changes for. So I think this is great that we can have this opportunity, and we need to encourage people to keep reaching out to the youth, even if they're, a lot of times they don't want to hear all of that stuff, but you got to keep putting it out there so they catch on, and it becomes, a norm for them to see people actually aware of their surroundings. I think about 2 weeks ago, I had an opportunity to speak to about 20 students, and we came up with a Students of Color conference that is all-encompassing of people of color that we get. We are setting up areas for us to be able to talk about issues that affect us personally, because right now there is no space for us to do that. So I took the opportunity to introduce this organization to them. Some of them knew about it already, but just to make sure we keep putting that information in front of their face. And these are college students I'm talking to, so I think we need to also focus on high schoolers, middle schoolers, elementary school kids, that it is the most important for them to get this information, because if not, it's going to just repeat, and that can't happen. So I had the opportunity to speak to college students, and we're coming up with a conference now that is going to allow us to come up with plans on how to get the information to these high school students and students younger than us, not just around our college areas. And I'm a senior, I'm about to graduate, so this would be something I continue to work on after school. But it's most important for these events to happen because they're not getting correct education in school. And a lot of times we see, I know a bunch of my peers that are, they say, forget school, I'm not going to school, I'm dropping out, because they're not teaching them what they need to know. And everyone's, not just going to, and that's fine if you want to make that decision, but they're also not taking the initiative to educate themselves on what they should be. So there needs to be, discussions like this. So even if you're not in school, that you can still somehow sit down with a group of people that want to help you be educated on the issues that you feel that you're not getting in school. And also to help them, keep out of trouble and off the streets. I'm going to talk a little bit about the school to prison pipeline, how, students are being criminalized in school. They're going to school, they're doing the right thing, but they're still being criminalized in school on petty, things that get them kicked out or expelled, and then and where do they go then? They go straight to these detention centers that are geared towards keeping them in that realm of, if you're not in school, you must end up in jail now. There's nothing else for you to do. Because we can't blame them for not wanting to go to these schools that aren't teaching them anything about themselves. But there needs to be things in place that is combating that if you don't want to go to school, then you come join and you help us educate people the correct way, or help us get the truth out there that isn't being seen and being covered up by corporate America and the media and all these images out there that make it so cool to be ignorant nowadays, and so cool to not know yourself and not be self-aware. So we need to have things like this so we can combat that. They have these zero tolerance policies in schools that help perpetuate that whole system of carrying our youth from schools directly to these detention centers. And many of these people, many of these children have, you know, learning disabilities, history of poverty, being abused or neglected at home, and they could use additional help, additional education, or additional counseling, but instead of that, they get sent away to these detention centers that aren't really working to rehabilitate them at all. Just working to keep them away from furthering themselves and getting to know who they really are and where they come from. So yeah, I think it's good that we get to have spaces like this for us to come and learn to, and we need to keep getting that information out there. And like he was saying, that, you know, if you have children, you need to check their homework. Not only do you need to check their homework, but you need to give them homework to do. It's cool that they're in school, you know, they're learning, you know, the essentials, the basics. But what do you give them when they come home, and what knowledge are you giving them to see the world outside in a different perspective, from a different perspective, and make that okay? So that's the school issue, but I want to talk also on like just the violence in prisons and how deadly the prison system really is. Actually never really, I'm not sure I ever really talked to someone that has been through the prison system until today. With Mr. Frazier, actually like got that side of the story, but it's ugly. I've been doing research on it for months now and figuring out like just what exactly goes on in there, and it's basically just stripping people of their humanity. It's not, like you said, it's not rehabilitation. It's not to help you get better. It's just to, you know, further oppress you. And the effects of systematic oppression are just devastating. I mean, people walking around, you know, ignorant, self-hating, and, you know, keeping us from being unified as a community, or keeping us from knowing what a sense of community even is. So I think it's important that we look also at what's going on behind that wall, and educating young people, to giving them that information so they can see. You know, because I know growing up, I didn't really think that, I didn't think about hyper-incarceration at all. I mean, I had maybe know people that went to jail, but it was just like, oh, okay, you know, that's normal, you know. But we don't really know how much or what goes on that is so similar to slavery. Like, it is slavery. And I think bringing that to the forefront of making that connection for the youth to see that we haven't really come that far, if at all. That it's not just, oh, someone goes to jail and it's just like, you know, it's normal. Like, this is not a normal system that people should be having to live under. It's really inhumane. So keep reminding them of that, the fact that the mass incarceration, hyper-incarceration isn't an act against humanity. And bringing that to the forefront. And there's people, like recent situations with just the Phil Africa situation. I'm not sure how many people have heard about that, but how suspicious his death was, and how, you know, there's absolutely no like lines of communication between, you know, that outside of that wall and behind that wall as to what's going on. You don't get answers for stuff like that. So these questions need to start being raised by the youth, and they have to become aware that things like this are happening, because they're not aware of things like that, and how people can get away with murder. And not have any consequences for it. I mean, they're saying that there's a situation in the Florida state prisons where there's like 300 plus inmates who have been murdered in, I don't know, just the most ridiculous ways, gas in their cells and given poison in their food and beaten to death and sprayed with hot water, 180-degree water, and these cops or guards are just getting fired. They're not put on trial. They just lose their jobs and probably go work somewhere else. So just bringing it to the forefront or to light what is actually going on behind this wall that is so obscure and it's sad because we get these images thrown in front of our face like that's cool to be, you know, locked up and toting guns and all this stuff, and youth continuously get, you know, set in that trap, and they don't know, aren't awake enough to realize that it's a system working for just that to happen. So it's bringing to light how ugly it is behind the wall, so that the youth can see that it's not cool, it's not a game, it's not fun, and how it's purposely being done.
Yeah.
It's not just a coincidence. It's not just a coincidence that all these people of color are behind bars. It's not just a coincidence that our music is the way it is. None of this is a coincidence. It's all set up for us to fail. So bringing that to light and awakening the youth to that, I think I'm glad that we added the component to this organization, that we could start to reach out to not only college students, but high school, middle school, and elementary. So in the hopes that we can unify and free their minds.
Thank you.